if we invest in our kids, then that helps those kids succeed. When those kids succeed, it saves money later in education. And when they find success in school, they then find success in work. And when they find success in work, it saves us in our criminal justice system. So I think he was very clear about the need for more early childhood education opportunities. I think he was very clear about training our workforce. The men and women who go to work with their hands every day, understanding that not everybody wants to go to college. And if they don't want to go to college, they need to be prepared to be our workers.
Chad Livengood is with us. It's Michael Patrick Shields. He's the Capitol reporter for the Detroit News. We also have State Representative Frank Foster, the Republican from Petoskey, and Wayne Schmidt, the State Representative, Republican from Traverse City, and House Speaker Jace Bolger, Republican from Marshall, now on the other end of our AT&T line. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike Patrick, and everyone else.
Yeah.
Good morning, boss.
Good morning, Good morning, Mr. Speaker.
It's funny that you called him boss, because yesterday at the Tropo party that AT&T Jim Murray threw, we were with Randy Richardville, the Senate Majority Leader, and in fact, Speaker Bolger was standing there when he said it. I said to him, you're not in lockstep with the governor? And he says, lockstep is not what we're in. And he said that he met with the governor when the governor first came in and said, you know the difference between your office and mine? Your office, everyone is here to say yes to you, and everybody works for you. In my office, I work for everyone in the Senate that elected me Senate Majority Leader. So it's funny when you call Speaker Bolger boss, because essentially, isn't it true, Speaker, you work for these guys?
That's absolutely true, and I know it was very tongue-in-cheek when they said it, because that is Senator Majority Leader Richardville absolutely encapsulates it. Each of us individually works for the people who send us to Lansing, and then we win another election to be in leadership in Lansing, and therefore we work for our caucus members who work for the people of the state of Michigan, and we always keep that understanding in balance as we're seeking to make sure that we're leading, we're providing solutions, but we're also listening to our constituents, whether those constituents are within the caucus or those constituents are at home.
Speaker Bolger, this is Chad Livengood. How are you this morning?
Good morning, Chad. I'm doing well. How are you?
I am good. Can you handicap what the chances are of this transportation, of the legislature raising $1.2 billion more money for roads in this session?
When you talk to our citizens and you look at the condition of our roads and bridges, it is clear the time has come to quit passing the buck. The time has come to make sure that we deliver results. And this is yet another problem that's been out there for too long, that's gone unresolved for too long. It's a problem we inherited. But now is not the time to point fingers. Now is not the time to cast blame. Now is the time to deliver a solution. So I think there's widespread agreement, and I didn't hear any difference of opinion of whether we need to dedicate additional dollars or not. The discussion, the debate will happen about how we best do that. And the bottom line for me is we need to solve the problem. I think the debate will be centered primarily around two options, or maybe a combination of those two options. And the first is, before we look to taxpayers, taxpayers need to be the last place we look. We need to first look internally. We need to see if we can reprioritize spending, dedicate dollars to roads, and make sure that we solve this problem with our existing resources. If, however, people are not willing to do that, then we need to explain to drivers, we need to explain to the people who use our roads how and when we're going to pay for that and how and when we're going to solve that problem. So I think that the debate needs to happen. I think it'll get underway very soon. But the debate needs to be just that. It needs to be a debate. There cannot be a stall, and there cannot be a passing of the buck. Our citizens are paying for this in their car repair bills, and our children are going to pay for it because instead of repairing roads, they'll be in a situation of having to replace roads.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I take a look at last night and what you just said, and something we did last year was with the severance tax. That was something that was designed to create infrastructure, long-term economy, trade routes in the Upper Peninsula, and that wasn't a tax increase. It was a rededicating of fund and something that the Upper Peninsula is going to benefit from years to come.
That's absolutely right. Yeah.
Mr. Speaker, would you favor going to the voters and asking them to approve some type of a tax plan?
I see people are rushing already, and I understand the rush to say, okay, what's the solution going to be? But we need to methodically work through that issue. We need to methodically make sure that the system, our road funding structure, is as efficient and effective as it can be. We need to be sure that we exhaust all options before we turn to taxpayers. And I understand everybody covering wants to jump right to, well, what tax are you going to raise? Again, I believe we need to start with the understanding that every taxpayer worked very hard to earn that money before they sent it to Lansing. We need to respect that money before we look to ask for more dollars. So before we get to the solution of additional money coming in, we need to first look at our own house and see, are there ways that we can dedicate resources from our existing resources.
And when people jump right to, I sort of think that's, not in every situation, but voters sent me down here to do a few things. Good government talks about infrastructure. Good government talks about your tax burden. Good government, talks about becoming more effective and efficient. So if I'm sent down here to talk about taxes and roads, and I immediately throw it back to the people in my district, that's sort of, we're here to problem solve and to get the job done. So this is one of those areas that's not going to be an easy solution, but we've had a decade of taking the easy way out, and now it's time for hard decisions. But I think people are ready for it.
Representative Foster is exactly right, and you can draw a comparison between this discussion and what you're seeing at the federal government. At the federal government, there's a paralysis because all the fingers are pointed at, well, is it taxes? Is it a change in the tax code? Is it spending? And instead of getting the job done, everybody's locked into one particular position or other. The bottom line is we need to deliver results for our citizens.
The Democrats are already starting to talk about they're not on board with raising taxes or fees on middle-class motorists. They talk about what's going to be your pitch to them that they need to get on board with this, Mr. Speaker.
Well, as I watched last night, if you were there and you saw it, or whether you saw it on TV, it was very telling and very concerning to me that you saw when the governor talked about jobs for veterans, when you saw the governor talk about early childhood education, workforce development. We saw the governor talk about roads and bridges. The Democrats sat on their hands. Now, the governor repeatedly tried to reach across the aisle, and the Democrats responded by sitting there and staring and effectively crossing their arms. Now, I don't think the people send us to Lansing to bicker. I think they send us to Lansing to get the job done. So I hope they change that approach. I hope they're willing to come to the table and provide solutions. And we stand ready to work with anyone who will set politics aside to deliver results for our citizens. So I think this is going to be a conversation that will take some time, but it's a conversation that needs to end with success.
How are you getting along with Tim Greimel? He seems to be very outspoken, almost like a flamethrower now.
Well, he is outspoken. I do respect that. As long as people are willing to passionately state their view and advocate for their position, but also be willing to come to the table and work to solve problems, work for solutions. As we saw the end of last session, we saw blatantly partisan political moves by the Democrats to not participate in solving problems. I'm specifically talking about regional transit. I'm talking about Detroit lighting, issues that also had been open for a long time, that they didn't have a policy opposition to. They simply said, and some of them openly said, they did not want the governor to succeed at something because he did right to work. Now, that is purely partisan politics. So I hope we can leave that behind. I hope we can each be passionate. I hope we can explain our position. But I hope we can have our focus the citizens of our state and not political parties.
Very quickly, how vital is Wayne Schmidt to this session coming up?
Wayne Schmidt is going to be key to this session. You're going to see Wayne continue to be intimately involved in key issues, but not only that, I think he's going to be intimately involved in delivering solutions.